Hello, everybody, and welcome to Flicker Effect, episode 349. We are recording this on Sunday, November 22nd, 2020. I'm David Lott. Joining me, as always, is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
And Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everyone.
That's a good representation of our kind of general energy level right now. First, I guess a little housekeeping for those, I would say watching, but listening on YouTube, and you're wondering why there's no video. Unfortunately, long story short, we weren't able to do any video this week. So yeah, this is still on YouTube, but just audio. And of course, the audio version of the podcast is available where it always is. Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. So yeah, no video this week. We should be back with video in the next episode. But for those of you who enjoy seeing us on YouTube, that'll be back eventually.
Well, I miss seeing you guys during the podcast and the recording. Like I'm sat here and kind of the blank void with just my face here and no Bobby and no David.
Yeah, I can see you, but that's it.
Yeah. I don't even think I have my camera hooked up right now. So
yeah, I have to say though, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed doing the live stream and the YouTube show, but like because I'm not able to do video this week, I've got the room like crazy dark. It's just a couple little lights in here. I'm like, I miss this atmosphere while doing shows. Like, this is so nice and chill.
It's almost like you should have like a cigarette going, a scotch in one hand.
Yes.
And you just to be like, my name is David Lott. Good luck and good night.
Right. Well, anyway, we had to take a week off last weekend. We're back this weekend. Weekend before Thanksgiving. So holidays are upon us. I would say Black Friday shopping is upon us, but it's actually already here. It seems like everyone's already kind of has Black Friday sales, if that's your thing. And yeah. And I would normally be like, hey, look at all the holiday movies that are coming up, but that's whatever. I think it's kind of a general shit show in terms of what's getting released. And I mean, I guess that brings me to my first thought of Wonder Woman 1984 and what's going on with that. Bobby, you'd probably be the best to fill us in. What's going on with that?
So, yeah, I mean, there'd been a game of chicken being played, it seemed like it, for a while, where Wonder Woman 84 had announced after a couple of different moves that they were solidly coming out on December 25th. And a lot of other movies that were planning on coming out in December started heading for the hills and going into 2021 or starting to go to streaming. And Wonder Woman seemed like it was still holding out. So it was kind of like, well, we're getting closer to it. And if they're sticking, then I guess they're going to make some sort of announcement that, we are still going to come out on December 25th because we're getting really close into the month of getting to December. So it became like, okay, people were starting to question what's going on. And sure enough, we get the announcement that HBO Max, that they are going to be showing Wonder Woman 84 on their service, in addition to it being played in theaters that are available to have it shown. One of the interesting things, and I still don't really know the real logic behind it. I imagine there is some. I just don't really get the finer details of it. But the HBO Max run, while it will be shown day and date of the theater release on December 25th, it will only be on the service for a month, and then after that it will leave. And then I guess after a few months or whatever the time would be, it'll be available like it would have normally been in the first place, where you can purchase it on VOD or buy your Blu-ray copy or whatever. And I don't know if it comes back to the HBO Max service at that time, but yeah, it's initially just going to be able to be shown for at least that first month on HBO Max if you can't get to a theater or don't feel comfortable going to a theater to check it out.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize it's only going to be on
I
there a
didn't know
month.
that. Yeah, I didn't know it was temporary either.
Yeah, I guess given the current state of COVID in this country, I guess basically around the world right now, there seems to be kind of a resurgence, rising numbers again. It seems like none of this should come as a shock that they finally decided to go, okay, we're just going to stick with the date, but also put it on a streaming service. I get why they're also still having that option of it being in theaters for those of us. I say us since I live in Florida. I'm sure we will probably continue in this state to have the option to see movies in movie theaters. But yeah, there's that option, for those people who can get to a movie theater and see it. But you brought up one thing, Bobby, when we were talking about it this week that I hadn't even crossed my mind, which is the first thing that makes me go, oh, now I'm annoyed, which is the fact that still to this day, HBO Max, for as big as HBO Max is getting, and I feel like they're putting a lot of good content out there, and they seem like they finally kind of have their footing, but yet they don't have 4K as an option, which in this day and age is kind of unbelievable that they don't. And then, yeah, you would at least think, considering, okay, we're going to release Wonder Woman 1984 on this service, that maybe along with that, they would go, okay, we are fast tracking getting 4K on our service just for this movie. I mean, we haven't heard that yet. Maybe that could still happen, I guess, but you're going to watch it at home. If you're going to watch it at home, you're going to watch it in good old 1080p, which blows my mind. That bums me out.
Yeah.
Bobby said something the last time that we talked, that we did a show where he was just like, or maybe it was a text, I'm not sure, but he was talking about how he thinks that HBO Max is probably the second most used streaming service that he has. And like when I really thought about it, I guess I was like, yeah, I guess I actually watch a lot of stuff off of HBO Max. Also, like that's probably right there, right up there. Like Hulu is probably my number one because I have Hulu Live, so I can flip around and watch, some live television. But you know, maybe even getting away from Netflix, it might even be tied with Netflix when it comes to HBO Max, just because they have so much good content. And hearing that they're not going to have it on 4K, and it's still not available for Roku, which is huge for me as well. Like you just have the regular HBO on there, which is fine, but it's not HBO Max. Like I find that mind-blowingly frustrating and annoying that they don't have a deal or an app or something ready when they had it rolled out. And then like you, David, like, you're going to release this movie and we're not going to really get a chance to enjoy it for what it's worth. It's just a really interesting strategy. I don't know what they pose to gain with that. If they're only going to have it for 30 days on HBO Max and then take it away and then expect to release it in the theaters again. I don't know that many people aside from my small group of friends, like it was particularly the four that I talked to here, that would be like, okay, well, I've seen it on HBO now. I want to go see how it was supposed to be seen in the movie theater.
Right. Sound like you're going to say
It's bad too. Yeah, I was just going to say it's bad too because, I mean, without getting too deep into the weeds for people who maybe don't really understand or know the differences between some of the different buzzwords or whatever for technology, but not only does it not have the 4K, it doesn't even have HDR and that high dynamic range, which is sometimes for what people who maybe at least understand it on a visual level, it gives a certain sort of pop between the colors. And so, that range between the blacks and the high level white areas, and really what you can do with the colors in that. It seems like it would be so fitting for something like Wonder Woman, and not even to have that. It just seems like they're just like, for all the other things that they're achieving with it, there's just a couple spots that they are missing, like Yasha mentioned, not having it on Roku. And just last week, they were able to make a deal with Amazon and get it on Fire Sticks. And I've heard that the Roku deal is very close to being done. I'm sure they're probably trying to get it done before Wonder Woman premieres. But yeah, just to not have those things this far into the run of the service. It hasn't been a full year yet, but it's still been a little while. And you would think that would have been the next thing after rolling it out, is to just sew up those other loose ends and get it going, because the content has been pretty good. And so for them to not have the other technical aspects down is a little, head scratcher. And so I'm just curious as to, at this point, why not say, hey, like you said, David, maybe do all you can to accelerate the rollout of 4K, because if your competition is having it, where you got your Netflix and your Disney Plus having those qualities and Prime, why would you still not have this at this point in time?
Yeah, I remember around the time HBO Max dropped, and now I'm just going to say a bunch of names of things I don't know the names of. Like, for instance, it was like the head of HBO's like streaming kind of division or whatever. I forget his name, and he did a long interview with a podcast that I can't remember the name of. And I just heard about it via like a blog and went out of my way to listen to the whole thing. And I want to say in that interview something came up about like why 4K wasn't there, and he just kind of bounced around it in the kind of PR way he could. But I just, for a service, just HBO in general, just HBO the channel, for a service that has such good content out there, such quality content, to like then come out with this kind of premium streaming service that you have to pay for, and they're having all this different content on, and to not have 4K again in this day and age, in the era where we've just got 2 new consoles dropped that are now 4K ready, and really 4K is extremely mainstream now. Yeah, not everybody has a 4K TV, but it's kind of to that critical mass level that it's become pretty common to put out a streaming service right now that doesn't have 4K. I don't know. It's a head scratcher. I don't get it.
I remember that conversation, David, because we talked about the Roku thing as well. Like, it was only available on Apple TV and Fire Stick, and Roku almost doubles what those demands are when it comes to streaming services. I think it was like the numbers were astounding. And like what really bothered me and what really floored me with that is like, okay, even like, fine, 4K, if you're not going to do that, like I get that, but it's like, at least make your product available to everyone. Like, it's like that's what I don't get when most people have Roku or Fire Stick. Not everybody has Apple TV, but at least across the board, the most popular services are Fire Stick, Amazon's Fire Stick, and Roku. And the fact that they just didn't have it, and they were like, in like that interview, I remember he danced around the questions like, oh yeah, well, that's definitely something we were taking a look at and really want to be a part of. And it's like, so you weren't before? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, how do you not have that as a top priority when it comes to your service? You're doing yourself a disservice and basically making more money. I didn't understand it at all.
I mean, yeah, I know it comes down to or at least they would, say that it comes down to a negotiation issue, I guess, between them and Roku. And I guess that's what the agreement they finally just came to with Amazon, which is why it just recently came to Fire TV. But I don't know. You would think that whatever conversations they're having with Roku would have been figured out by now, but hopefully I guess all we can say is hopefully they have it figured out soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wonder Woman 1984 coming to HBO Max and theaters. I guess my first thought is, what am I going to do? Am I going to see it in a movie theater, HBO Max? I mean, I guess based on my one experience going to a movie theater so far, during the pandemic, and that was Tenet. I mean, if I can see Wonder Woman 84 with that same experience, yeah, I'm gonna go to a movie theater. I mean, that was fantastic. There was like two other people in the movie theater, and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
near anybody, and I felt perfectly safe. And yeah, if I have that opportunity to see it in the theater, I will. Especially given that I can't watch it in 4K at home. So, of course, we'll see what happens by the end of December and how bad COVID is, and if I'll have that opportunity or not. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I find interesting about the whole thing is the way that a lot of people have talked about when movie theaters return, will people go, or if people feel comfortable going to the theaters. And I've heard a lot of people say, they don't want to go, and it's honestly the best time to go is because there's hardly anyone in those theaters, and you almost have the whole thing to yourself. And there's like, in fact, I went to the theaters the last day before they were closed down again here recently last week, and I think there was, aside from myself, maybe four people in the theater,
Yeah.
and we were watching Let Him Go, this new movie that came out with Diane Lane and Kevin Costner,
Oh, that one.
and
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, there was hardly anyone in the theater. I mean, and granted, of course, that type of movie probably isn't going to draw a huge crowd anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no doubt, it was just easy enough to see that you would feel comfortable, being in there because you're spread far enough apart that there's just no feeling like you're almost in there with anyone else. You just feel like you're kind of there with the theater to yourself.
Yeah. I just wonder if it's just like this certain what's the word I'm looking for, like with the movie theaters being so dead and people not wanting to go, not feeling comfortable, versus some of the things people are seemingly doing during the pandemic that they seem comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I wonder if it's a matter of not people just not understanding that not many people are going, and then it'll reach this point of then everyone getting it, and then suddenly theaters will start selling out again. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
similar to my
Mm-hmm.
experience here in Orlando with the theme parks, because when I finally went to a theme park again, to Epcot back in, I think it was like September 1st, that was definitely a point where the parks were open, but here in Florida anyway. But people still were definitely not, I guess, not comfortable yet going, because that day we went, I've talked about it on here before, it was a ghost town. Like, it was amazing. It was my best experience in a theme park, probably ever, just because it was so incredibly dead. It's like we had the park to ourselves almost. And I've been now actually a couple times since then, and that I'm glad I had that experience, but now it's over. Now the parks are definitely picking back up. I mean, they still have restrictions on the amount of people they're letting in and such, but they're definitely busier. So I wonder if maybe theaters will get to that point, at least for the theaters that are open, where people will start to, either through word of mouth or something, will finally realize, hey, it sounds like I could just go to a movie theater. And then more and more people will think that, and then boom,
Right.
suddenly everyone's going to a movie theater. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're right, but we're not there yet. So if
Yeah,
you
we're
could
not.
see something, it'd be perfect time to try and go do it. That's why I'm very curious, regardless of whether or not theaters are open back up here again in Southern California, wherever they are open, how well Wonder Woman will do on that opening weekend for the theaters. It just will be an interesting case study just to see, like, if you can comfortably get it at home, will you? Or are you feeling, like you said, David, there's people that feel comfortable enough doing a lot of different things that you would think you wouldn't want to do based on the current climate,
Yeah.
and that you would want to stay at home for. So is the theater something that you feel like you would want to go do, that you with a movie like Wonder Woman? I can see it maybe not being the case with something like Tenet or some of the other movies that have been in the theater, but a movie like Wonder Woman, will that be enough for you if you're already comfortable enough doing other things under current guidelines and stuff? Will that be something that you'll say, okay, I'll go see it? I don't have HBO Max. I don't plan on getting it, but I'll go see this in the theater kind of thing. So I'm very curious to see what people will do or be willing to do under those circumstances once it comes out.
Yeah, because I guess this would probably be the first movie since the pandemic that I think has an extremely wide audience it's reaching out to. Like, I mean, yeah, you could argue Tenet is a huge movie, of course, but I don't know. It's not a superhero
No, that's
movie.
a really good point.
Like,
I would say the same thing.
What was that?
I would
Bobby?
say the same thing. I mean, I just actually was listening to you guys, and I would say the same thing. I think Wonder Woman is. I mean, we're getting our summer blockbuster movie in the winter, and that's really what it's supposed to be for the holidays. Because this movie was supposed to be released, what I believe, last May. I think. You know, like
it's so hard
I can't remember the original release date.
June at least of this year.
But either way, I mean, it just that's when we're getting this movie. We're getting it right in the midst of the winter when we were supposed to get it, for our summer blockbuster. And it's a shame. And we were talking about this and texting about this as well. But I mean, we're all, I think, on the same viewpoint, is that it's a shame that this is when it's being released, because it's not going to even come close to what it should make if none of this was going on. Like I really stand by that. I believe that even if it makes 100 million, I think they'll be stoked for it. But considering what the first one did and the surprise that they had of success with that, and if Patty Jenkins and everybody delivers, which I think they are going to for the second, I mean, the special effects and the fight scenes already look that amazing. So it's like, I mean, we're just going to get more of that, which is hopeful. But I mean, it's just a shame that we're not going to get the release that it does. It's going to get the release and the results that it deserves.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say one thing, sort of last thing about it, is that I do appreciate the fact that they are going to show it on HBO Max for people who don't feel comfortable going into theaters to see it, and that it's not any additional cost.
Right.
If you have HBO Max, you can just watch it. So I do appreciate that, instead of them
and I respect
adding on
that too.
$20, to watch it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Bobby. Like, I think that's great that they're doing that. Not a whole like watch it on HBO Max Plus, where you pay an extra $30 to watch this one movie. Like, no, like, I mean, just the fact that we get to watch it. And I mean, just to throw the numbers out there, it's like, I mean, the budget last time was $149 million, and they crushed it domestically with that, with a $412 million run, and internationally $408 million, for a combined $821 million worldwide, which is huge for that movie. So that's awesome to see.
So since you mentioned it, Bobby, how was the movie that you were talking about? Was it Let Him Go?
Yeah, Let Him Go. And brief story is that Kevin Costner is he plays a sheriff. Well, he used to be a sheriff, and him and his wife, who's played by Diane Lane, are raising their grandkid when some tragedy happens, and the grandkid ends up going with the in-laws, and the in-laws aren't the nicest of people, let's say, and they feel as though that they want to remove that kid, that their grandchild, from that situation, and it's not as easy as that. I'll say that, and it plays out really well. It's more of a slower paced film, in a way that it feels like a throwback to where movies took their time, and this isn't in any specific rush to get to the destination. And a lot of it has to deal with the relationship between Diane Lane and Kevin Costner's characters. And, they're fantastic in the movie as well. And just the story as it unfolds, and how do they go about trying to remove this kid. There's a lot of tension that gets built up and comes to a head towards the end of the film. And yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. And it just felt like a type of movie you don't see that much these days. But it just, for me, was great actors in it, and just telling a story that was intriguing and moving at times. And yeah, I just really thought it was really well done, and I was glad to be able to see it before this theater shut down, because I had seen the trailers for it and wanted to see it. So I was glad I got a chance to see it.
Well, you got to just answered my question I was going to ask you, which is what drew you to see it? Was it just the trailers, or was it buzz that you were hearing, maybe that it was had good reviews, or a combination
Yeah,
of
heard no
both?
buzz. No, heard no buzz, heard no reviews, and maybe I don't know if that was because reviewers hadn't had a chance to get to it, or whatever the case may be. Maybe there was no early screenings for it, but yeah, I just saw the trailer for it, and it looked interesting. And I just think it's funny and interesting, and well, just the fact that you have Ma and Pa Kit in it.
Right.
That was just enough for me to be like, okay, well, they're coupled up again since Man of Steel, and
Hmm.
I like the two of them as Ma and Pa Kent. So, and the trailer again looked interesting enough that I was like, yeah, let me go check this out. This looks like it'd be something kind of cool, and it definitely was.
Yeah, I asked that question because I will say I had a different reaction from that trailer. I mean, I haven't seen this movie, but I
Mm.
remember seeing the trailer and thinking, this does not look enjoyable to me. Like it looks like one of those movies that could be extremely good, and these actors are solid actors, and it could be well acted, and a well told story. But I remember just seeing the trailer thinking, this is stressing me out. Just the trailer is stressing me out. Like as a
Mm.
parent, like
Hmm.
I feel like what enjoyment am I going to get out of seeing this movie? Like it just looks like, obviously it seems like, hey, I would like to think it ends in a good way. So there's a purpose to the ride, but I don't know. I just remember seeing that trailer going, oh, I don't know if I could watch this. And that's why I ask, but that's nice to hear. That's a good movie. Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's. I mean, I get why you would feel that way, and there's certainly that element to it as you're watching it. But I do think those other elements that you mentioned in terms of the acting and the story outweigh some of that feeling of that this is not necessarily the type of happy-go-lucky movie that you might be looking for,
Right.
at this point in time. But yeah, I definitely appreciated it for what it was going for and what it accomplished in that respect.
Yeah, I was trying to think. We couldn't do a show last week, and I was trying to think. Like, I feel like I watched a movie recently that
Mm.
I hadn't talked about on here, and maybe I didn't. Maybe it's just because I've been watching The Crown, which I can get to, but I'm not
Hmm.
done with it yet. I'm about halfway through that season. Been watching The Mandalorian, of course.
Hmm.
I did watch
Where are you
though.
at, actually? Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
where am I with what?
Well, when you said The Mandalorian and that you've been watching that, and I think I remember. Well, I wasn't on the show, but I did listen back to it. That Yasha had mentioned that he hadn't been all the way caught up with it yet, and I was curious if he's caught up at this point or if he's still behind.
I'm one episode behind. I haven't watched this week's episode yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Do you find, I don't know how active you are on social media, Yasha, but do you find that that's difficult when you don't see it? Like, do you end up seeing things on social media and such, or?
You know what? No, because if I do see or like any tidbit, like I mean, I started to see some things after the last episode with I think the frog person or whatever. Like I started to see a few things, but I kind of actively just avoid it, and I don't read into anything when it comes to that. Like I'm just like, oh, I don't want to read the caption. I don't want to see. I don't want to flip the pictures or anything like that. I kind of actively try to be like, okay, I'm not going to pay attention to that.
Gotcha.
I think that's good that you're able to do that. And hopefully, if you do end up still being kind of, par for the course, maybe a week behind per episode, that you will continue to do that specifically for this upcoming week of the Mandalorian, because I have a feeling that you almost won't be able to escape it if you normally are able to escape it. So either you might want to try and check that one out, in real time, or make sure you really have some good lockdown on being spoiled from it, because it's possible that it might be a big one. So
Yeah, I'm probably gonna, in all honesty, I'll probably watch it right after our episode tonight.
okay.
And then, yeah, I mean, the nice thing about this next episode, because normally I would be at work on a Friday, and I work early enough that it's like I don't usually get to watch the episodes until that night. And
Well, there's another reason for that too, though, right?
Wait, what do you mean? I did hesitate.
Well,
I'm like, wait, what are we talking about?
Well, you don't just watch them alone, though,
Oh,
right?
no. Like Michelle and I end up watching them together. And
Yeah, so otherwise you would probably maybe just sneak it in before work, and maybe
I would. Yeah.
if you woke up a few minutes earlier.
Well, that's because that's what I did with the very, very, very first episode of The Mandalorian. Like I woke up early that day and watched it actually by myself. Because in that case, I remember I was like, look, I have to see this. Like before I start seeing things online, like I watched it that morning, and she did the same thing when she woke up later and she watched it on her own. But ever since then, we've watched them together. But but yeah, I don't usually get to see them until Friday night, and I like to. I do feel like, I don't know if it's a product of just when people get around to seeing it, or if it's a product of people being considerate, at least of like a 24-hour period. But I do feel like on Fridays, I haven't had too many issues like throughout the day on Friday, people like posting pictures of anything, or like when I go through my YouTube feed of people I'm subscribed to and such, I don't see a lot of like thumbnails on YouTube videos of stills from that episode that was released that day. It's usually like the next day, which, arguments can be made that's still not long enough. It should be a week or something. I don't know. But at least I feel like if people tend to kind of give you at least Friday to see it, and then on Saturday, it seems like, okay, now I'm seeing more and more stuff pop up on YouTube, pictures of this character looking like this or whatever, that would maybe kind of at least hint at something you didn't know, So that's nice.
Yeah, I don't know that will hold for this week,
but yeah, so I was going to say, the nice thing about at least this week being Thanksgiving week, like at least this next episode, I will watch Friday morning, probably first thing in the morning. This will be the one I'll get to watch when I get up. If not, because it's a holiday, I may also just stay up and watch it. Maybe. Yeah. Well, yeah. Are they dropping? Do they drop at 12 o'clock Eastern or 12 o'clock Pacific? I don't even know.
So the first episode, I think this season, when I watched it, it dropped at midnight Eastern.
Okay.
So
see, that makes it easy for you guys.
Midnight Pacific.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So I had to, stay up and watch it at that point when it dropped at midnight. And then I heard, because I didn't do it for the next week, but I heard that second week it dropped at like 12:15. So I don't know what the other episodes, at what time they dropped, if they were right at midnight or a few minutes after. But I had just ended up, because I just wanted to watch that first episode this season just because it was returning right at midnight. But I think that the other episodes, I felt like, okay, I can just get up early, a little bit earlier than I normally would, and watch them before work. And that's what I've been doing so far with the rest of the episodes. But this week's episode, like you said, not having to work the next day, I think I might end up staying up on that Thursday, and watching it then. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say something about this most recent episode that wasn't even spoilery. But still, considering you haven't watched it yet, Josh, I won't even say what I was going to say.
So. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll keep my mouth shut. But
so you were saying, I think along the way, and I kind of interjected about the whole Star Wars thing. But
no,
there was some movie that you watched.
I was trying to think of the most recent movie I'd watched that I hadn't talked about yet, and I think I did talk about most of them the last episode. But one movie I think I forgot to bring up in that last episode, because I saw it even before that, I finally got around to watching Bill and Ted Face the Music, which, I mean, I did not, it's been out for a bit. I'm not going to linger on this, but I just wanted to mention I saw it, and yeah, it was, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was interesting. So I was trying to think back too, like, did I even watch, like, I think I had to have seen a trailer for it at some point. I mean,
Yeah, I would think so.
I would think so.
I mean, I post them on our feeds and stuff. I don't know if you watched it, but
I say that because I feel like maybe I just saw like an early kind of, I don't know if they put like an initial like teaser out for it or something, but I remember at one point, even probably after it was out, seeing like a movie poster for it somewhere online and seeing the image of the Bill and Ted, but also the two girls, and thinking, oh, so this is a situation where it's like they have daughters that are basically like taking their place kind of thing or something. I'm totally having this, thought in my head based on a movie poster. And I remember thinking, okay, like, I don't know if like, isn't that necessary? The whole, like, our children now are kind of in our place kind of situation. But the funny thing is that was like the best part of the movie were the daughters. Like, I loved that part of the movie. Like their storyline was great and their acting was great. And just, I enjoyed. Now, Bill and Ted themselves and their whole little story arc in the movie was like, I could have done without. I kind of hated it actually. And that it's just funny that I went into the movie going, I'm going to hate this whole thing with having their daughters and blah, 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 being musicians too. But that part was awesome. But the rest of it was meh. So anyway, that's my quick Bill and Ted Face the Music review. You haven't seen it, Bobby?
I have not. No,
Okay.
I think I was just pretty much resigned to waiting for it to come out on one of the streaming services proper instead of paying for it on any extra amount.
But yeah, I have been watching The Crown. Like I mentioned, I think I'm through 4 episodes of that, and it's still good. That's a great show. Like, for those who haven't watched it, I mean, especially the first 2 episodes of this season, I remember just after that second episode going, my God, this seems even better than it has been the past couple seasons. And maybe that's also due in part to that it's getting to that era of the royal family that, I was alive for. So
yeah,
it's all that the more recent modern history of the royal family with Princess Diana and such that I think is going to pique everyone's curiosity to see. But yeah, no, it's good. That's all I'll say. I'm not much to say about it, but that's a damn good show.
So that's interesting just because I know that there's like, I always feel like with whatever time you do have, there's just certain shows that you make sure that you're there for.
Right.
And that the Crown has definitely been one show throughout the years of us doing this podcast that no matter what else is going on with anything else you have, that's one show you make sure you're on top of, that you don't dilly dally around and end up being behind on. So to me, that speaks a lot of volume for that show, just because. And yeah, it does kind of fit into as getting to know you over the years and what tends to strike you as something that you like. You do tend to like those types of shows, not necessarily period pieces, but something of that kind of nature, even more so than sometimes a good action show or whatever the case may be. It's something of that nature that will drive you to actually sit down and make the time for it. And so the way that you do that for this show says that it really is good. And I've only through just hearing about it in general, started watching it at one point in time. It's been a while at this point, but I watched maybe the first, I would say, 3 episodes of season 1, and I liked it. I just other things, being out and about, that I just hadn't had a chance to get back to it and watch it as well, and be in on it. But yeah, yeah, you've definitely have praised the show, and rightfully so, because it does tend to get a lot of accolation, and people talking about it for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe it's just a matter of my Google search history and knowing what I search for, and it like now my Google news feed I feel like constantly has this stuff related to the Crown in it. But I don't know. I do
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's even more just kind of chatter about the show. I think considering now the subject matter of this season, like I mentioned, how it's getting to this Princess Diana era. I feel like it's getting even more kind of attention this season than previous. Even though I mean the show's gotten a ton of attention, it's gotten a lot of high
Yeah,
accolades
for
and
sure.
such. But I don't know. Like it does seem like there's just a lot more chatter about it, about the historical accuracy and such, and then one thing I was looking into, because as we know that there was 2 seasons, and then they recast for the next 2 seasons as all these
Right.
characters are supposed to age, and then that's going to be the case again. Now this is the second season with these actors, so now for seasons 5 and 6, which apparently are going to be the last 2 seasons, we are going to have now another set of actors playing these parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it, and I remember hearing this, but I'd forgotten that Elizabeth Debicki, is that how you say her last name? is,
Yeah,
is going
yeah,
to play the role of Princess Diana.
right.
And I was thinking, I'm like, I wonder if they're going to shoot the show in a way that is not going to like highlight her height. Like Princess Diana wasn't
Mm,
short, but she wasn't that tall. like,
right.
I mean,
Yeah, she's
that
tall.
that actress is 6'3". We were
Yeah, she's
just talking
tall.
about it for Tenet, like just how
Hmm.
tall she is. And I think Dominic West, I think, is playing Charles
Yeah, I
in
believe
those
so.
last 2 seasons. Yeah, I'm wonder if they're going to like just kind of frame shots in such a way that make her not look as tall as she is. I don't know. It's just thought I had, but
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. I had heard that she's was cast for Princess Diana for the last two, but
yeah,
yeah, I hadn't thought about the height thing and how they'll handle it. Because I mean, I think a lot of times, even in Tenet, you don't always notice the height, but there's certain shots where, especially when she's standing next to people proper, you'll see it, and there's no ability or way that they you could even hide it or to try to hide it, but yeah, I guess they would probably want to, because if they're trying to go for something that at least looks to scale from the real actual height of Princess Diana, they'll have to do something.
yeah. I mean, I know the showrunner, and of course, I mean, I'm totally blanking on his name right now. I think he's mentioned a couple times that they haven't cast the show going out of their way for like lookalikes. I think
Right.
they've tried to cast people that generally look the part, but it's more the actor fits the part, other than just
Mhm.
looks. So I mean, maybe they won't care. I don't know about the height, but anyway.
Well, like, and to your point, and I at least say that they maybe don't go after someone that specifically looks like that person, but they do enough to then kind of make them look like
Yeah.
that person. Because to that, I know that Gillian Anderson is playing Margaret Thatcher, and
Mm-hmm.
she obviously looks nothing like Margaret Thatcher
Thatcher.
in real
Yeah.
life, but in the show, they do enough with makeup and prosthetics, I guess,
And
to
the
give that
and the
appearance.
actress they cast for Princess Diana in this season is, I mean, man, she really
That's
looks
what
the
I've heard. She looks
part.
like. Oh, yeah, I've
And
heard
she's
that.
incredible too. I mean, she's an incredible actress. I don't think I'd seen her in
Mhm.
anything before, at least not that I can recall. But yeah, she really does look the part, big time. Um. Anyway, anything else that you guys have been watching or want to talk
I'm
about?
curious if Yasha's watched anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I started actually just a couple of fun things. The first one that I would say is like after thinking about it for a while was Eater's Guide to the World, which is a documentary style show on Hulu, narrated by Maya Rudolph. which, I mean, if you're a food person, it's just basically showing you different restaurants and different places and the food there. So that's a little bit of a fun watch. And I've started Wayne, but haven't completely finished the first episode to get into it. That's a Amazon Prime show. Really dark so far, kind of hard to describe what it's like. So I'll have more on that as I get through that. And the one that I'm really excited about is on Friday, Hulu released their new series, Animaniacs. If
Mm-hmm.
anybody watched the cartoon back from the 90s, I've actually watched a couple of these episodes. They do not disappoint. They are quite funny. Pinky and the Brain is also back. So if you liked the old school Animaniacs, you will definitely enjoy this. It's very smart, it's very witty. The political satire is definitely there. And it's just, it's kind of fun to see real solid comedy and animation again. And I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that was on my radar to watch. I had a few things I was going to try and get to this weekend, but didn't get to, and that was one of them that I wanted to try and check out.
How about you, Bobby? Watch anything?
Well, the only other thing that I did get a chance to check out from my list of things was um, HBO. Disney Plus had released a new Star Wars event, and in this case, it was the Christmas special. Um, I don't know how familiar you guys were with the original Christmas special, but uh, the Star Wars, this one is a Lego Star Wars holiday special, so it's obviously not in the same vein as the one that George Lucas hates and that was shown on TV that for Life Day, and you meet Chewbacca's
Mm.
family and all that stuff, and this one is pretty good. I liked it a lot. I had some good laughs with it, and it's fairly short. I think it was maybe under an hour and a half or somewhere abouts. But the story is basically it seems as though it takes place after the Last Skywalker or Rise of the Skywalker, um, and it's telling the story where Rey is trying to train um, Finn in the ways of the Jedi and trying to get him to be a Jedi, and she's having trouble and she doesn't know what she's doing wrong, and through some sort of guidance of her trying to figure out what she's doing wrong, she finds something that allows her to go and time travel into past and coming across different scenarios and scenes from old past movies that we've seen before, and her getting sort of some sort of level of guidance from it and causing trouble and havoc as you tend to do when time travel is involved. And yeah, I thought it was cute and it was pleasant and easy enough to watch, and it was a nice little thing I think that they had for this. It was nothing too I would say spectacular in the sense that you're going to be raving about it, but it feels like it was done with care and in the fun that it was intended to be done for, because it pokes fun at itself and at the series of movies as well. And I think that being in on the joke, it lends itself well for these Lego type movies, and this is no exception. I think it just was a nice kind of entertaining thing to have, and I could easily see this being something that they maybe want to continue the tradition and do more of these each year, or just even this just being a singular thing and it be something you can just watch every year near Christmas. But yeah, I did like it, and I think that uh, for a lot of people, if you have Disney Plus and you do like the Star Wars Lego stuff that they've done in the past, this fits within that realm and that vein, and I think it'd be good enough for the family to check out.
Yeah, there was a point. It might have even been today or no, yesterday, I think. Anyway, this sometime this weekend that I thought about putting it on, like with watching something with the kids, but I was like, I'm gonna wait till after Thanksgiving. It's a Christmas thing, but I want to watch it. Just haven't yet.
And while I didn't get to watch anything else, there was a few things that I want to at least put on anyone that's listening their radar for stuff that I kind of wanted to see. Um, Yasha had already mentioned the Animaniacs. That was something I've been wanting to see. There's another one that's on Netflix that I've been hearing really good things about. That maybe that will be sort of a one I'll watch a little bit after Thanksgiving, but good things I've heard, and it's Jingle Jangle. It's a Christmas movie with if not predominantly, but maybe possibly all black cast. And I'm not as familiar with what the story is, but I know Forrest Whitaker is in it, and it seems to be getting a lot of good buzz behind it, and people seem to be really taking to it, and the music and everything else that's a part of it. So yeah, I want to check that out. And there's this movie that just started playing on Hulu that I heard again, buzz and some good things about this movie called Run. I don't know if anybody has seen any previews for that. Yeah. Okay. So
I just saw the trailer for the first time yesterday, I think.
yeah, interesting kind of concept there. It's like this actress who is actually in a wheelchair is playing the main character that is in a wheelchair. And, it's like Sarah Paulson is in it. And just the tagline of it says, "You can't escape a mother's love." So it sounds like it's like a thriller type movie. And I've been hearing pretty good things about that. So that's what one of the other things I wanted to watch. But now that you said that, Yasha, I'm curious what you thought of that trailer.
It looks super interesting. Like the trailer did it for me. Like I'm a fan of the actress. You just said her name and it's escaping
Sarah
me right
Paulson.
now. The lead actor, yeah, Sarah Paulson. That's it. I'm a fan of her work. So I'll definitely watch it. Like I'm super interested to see how it goes, and how that show really develops. That movie is. But it's got me curious. I mean, it looks really dark and kind of twisted, and has me asking a bunch of questions and assuming a bunch of things. So I definitely kind of want to check that out.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to mention of something I wanted to check out is there's these movies that were playing at TIFF, I believe, this year. I want to say TIFF, that I remember people talking about that was done by the director Steve McQueen. It's called Small Acts, and I think there's 5 of these stories, and each of them are like maybe an hour a piece. The collection of films, and the first one I think is called Mangrove, and it has John Boyega in it, and it's like him living on in London and talking about sort of life experiences through a period of time. And I've heard at least from the first 2 or 3 of these short film movies, whatever you want to call them, are all pretty good. And that's on Amazon Prime, and I definitely want to check that out at some point in time too.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention I did actually. Yes, that was last night. I watched the new Kevin Hart special on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I actually
What'd you
tried to
think?
watch that.
You tried to watch it?
I've
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. I've heard somebody say they watched about 10 minutes of it and had to cut it off because it just wasn't good. And I didn't even know the concept of it, that it was basically this thing that was being done of him from home, like because of COVID. I thought it was a legit type stand-up thing.
Yeah, it was apparently, I guess, shot in his house, and so yeah, he's got people like in these kind of couches, and it's kind of spread out in this big room in his house. I guess that's the setup. I did watch the whole thing, but I will say I didn't really laugh for a while. But then there was a kind of a section of his routine that I found pretty funny. So it was hit or miss. Like, There were parts of it I thought that kind of worked, and a lot of it that really didn't. And then I found myself thinking, I'm like, wait, how much Kevin Hart like stand up have I actually watched? Like, I actually haven't seen much of his stand up. So part of me is like, I don't know if I was watching the early part of the routine thinking, maybe is he just not my kind of comedian? Like, he seems like a great guy. I don't, no problems with Kevin Hart. Just, I don't know. Maybe he's just not the kind of comedian I find funny, but, or maybe it was just this routine. I don't know. But overall, it was okay.
Yeah, I've watched pretty much all of his stand-ups, and there are times I've found him like quite funny and like really, really enjoyable. And 15 to 20 minutes in, I was done. I was like, yeah, this is not
Yeah.
great. I
No, I
felt
get
like
that.
he was almost trying. I think he was almost trying to copy Chappelle's
Yeah.
really quick one-man show that he did after George Floyd's death. But he's like, well, I'm going to do this in my house, and it's like, listen, man, congratulations on your wealth and how rich you are, but I don't necessarily need you to see you put on a show in your little makeshift, theater in your house that, can encompass my entire apartment building. Like,
Right.
so I'm just,
That part is a little
that's
weird. Like, at least the Chappelle thing is like, it's outdoors on this land, I guess, that Chappelle
yeah,
owns. And,
yeah,
he
exactly.
was just in this kind of like, I don't know, this modest pavilion thing he was standing in, I think, for the Chappelle special. But this, you're
Yeah.
right. I was watching this going, I feel like, are you just like wanting to show off your house?
Yeah.
It was a little,
That's really what, and I wasn't the only one. Like, I have a couple of friends that are really into comedy. And we talked about that part of me as well. And that's the first thing that they said too, is just like, hey man, congratulations on how rich you are. And I'm happy that I can contribute to that being a fan, but I don't want to sit here and necessarily see how rich you are in your house.
right.
Like, this is, I mean, great, man. Like, all of your kids and your second wife, the second failed marriage, or whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. That's just kind of like my viewpoint on it. So it's like, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to watch this. I'm done. I still enjoy some of the stuff in his appearances in movies. I'll probably watch the next Jumanji when they get that started, because they had left that second one with such a huge tag lead in. And I'll probably watch another movie that he comes out if I'm interested in it, which there's a high probability that I will. But as far as as I consider like his stand up, I feel like the stand up has kind of run its course. He's just not really relatable, or doesn't have very good stories anymore, because he just is so disconnected from reality.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But yeah, that was just one
I
thing.
did like his
I remember.
last one.
Is the last one you did like?
And
Or?
Yeah, and I haven't watched a ton of his stand up either, honestly. I've seen maybe, including this last one that he did before this current one on Netflix. I think I've maybe seen two others. So I've seen maybe a total of three of his. And yeah, I've enjoyed him so far. It just was not someone that was on my radar in terms of watching their stand up. I was more familiar with him just from movies more so than his stand up. But yeah, I did enjoy those. So I will say that um, I wouldn't necessarily say that his stand up is my favorite in terms of him being out there with everyone else. But I enjoyed it, from what I did see it, and there was some true, really good belly laughs. I think I had in the last one that he had.
Yeah. Then,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I meant to mention earlier. You were talking about how I watch The Crown, and it's one of those shows that does seem like I only have so many that I go out of my way to actually keep up with and not fall behind on. And it made me think about the fact that another show that I'm been trying to continue to watch, but I obviously it's just not doing it for me like the first season did. And
I
that's
think I know what you're gonna say.
really, I'm wondering. I've been trying to watch Haunting of Bly Manor. And I don't know. Every time I watch an episode, I'm like okay. Like, I don't know. It just isn't. I loved that first season. I thought it was so solid. And then he went on to direct that Doctor Sleep, which I thought was great. And then, but this is not doing it for me so far. I don't hate it. It's fine. It's interesting enough, I guess is the best way to put it. But
Probably just wasn't what you were looking for out of this second season. More so
no,
than anything.
at least not yet. I don't know. I'll be honest. I haven't really read or gone on my way to look into like any like critical reaction to it. I don't really know how it's been received by anyone else. But
Seems to be more mixed, I
yeah,
would say, in a fair mix, and even the people who are not loving it, they don't really have anything bad to say about it per se. I think it might have also been a level of expectations with them as well. I mean, because I didn't really hear them saying anything terrible about the season. Yeah, so I think that the way it seems to be getting described is that it's more of a what do you call it? Gothic horror, gothic romance kind of
mm,
season, more so than like how last season was just more straight up horror.
yeah, yeah. I could see that. I mean, I've only seen. I mean, I'm trying to think of even how many episodes I've watched. Three or four. Anyway, yeah. It's obviously I'm not as interested in it just by how I'm like, I guess I'll watch another one. I mean, I'll admit to you, my attention lately has been very distracted by gaming, but and then The Crown, because right now it's like, okay, if I am going to watch something, I'm watching another episode of The Crown. Like I've been almost watching at least one episode of that a night, but with a couple misses here and there. But anyway.
I can't remember. Did you? Because sometimes what we talk about offline blends in and bleeds into what we talk about online. Did you mention that you had PS5 and Xbox Series X on the podcast or the show?
No, I don't think I've talked about it.
Oh,
Yeah,
David, do you have a PS5?
I do.
Oh shit, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got lucky with the pre-orders. In my case, I mean, I was trying various retailers, those different for the pre-order periods for what PS5 and for Xbox, and both
Yeah.
times it worked out for me with Walmart. Walmart, to recap, I think I told this story once before, but to recap, like, I mean, I just had to stick with it, even though Walmart, I remember, would react like, oh, we're out, but but it wouldn't remove it from my cart. It was weird. And I was like, I'm going to keep trying. And I just kept trying. And eventually it let me buy it. And then same thing with the Xbox when they did that. And the Xbox at first, I wasn't even like necessarily going to get. And I'll be honest, I think I just got kind of caught up in, oh, maybe I'll try. And then once I was able to get one, I'm like, I guess I'm going to get this. And then I was like, did I need to buy that? But it's funny. I've actually played the Xbox more than I have the PS5, mainly because I think I've been more caught up in a game or two on there right now than I have with anything on the PS5 right now. Nothing against the PS5. Because my quick take of the two is that, yeah, I mean, having never had an Xbox console before, I guess I should say this. I haven't. This is my first Xbox console. But still, the Xbox just feels like an upgraded machine. It's like, hey, you want to upgrade the computer, and this is a more upgraded computer. It's really all it seems like. But the PS5 does feel like more of a new experience, mainly with that controller, man. Like the DualSense controller is pretty interesting. It's pretty awesome. Like just the amount of like haptic kind of feedback you get from it is pretty cool. And I have played a lot of the. Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
Just when you talked about the controller, what I love about that is that they created a game that it comes with the console that was strictly made to showcase the controller and how developers and game developers can incorporate those into their games if they kind of so choose to do so. And from what I hear from people, that the game is pretty fun and it really does do a good job of showcasing what all the DualSense controller is capable of doing.
It is. That's what I was just gonna say. Like, the thing I've played the most on the PS5 is it's called Astro's Playroom, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
it's you can tell it is purely designed in a way to show off that controller, and where at the different surfaces he's walking on or walking through, like mud or anything or wind, like you feel everything in that controller. And yeah, and I remember hearing about it before the console officially dropped, and there were obviously reviewers out there who already had like review units, and they would talk about it and kind of regard to it being a game designed to show off the controller. So I just kind of expected it to just be a little thing that was just like, okay, it's just going to show off the controller and whatever. But yeah, the game is actually entertaining. Like, my kids love playing that game, and I like playing it. I'm not done with it, but it's fun because you're collecting all these like artifacts. That's what they call them. But the game is also kind of celebrating PlayStation, all the different generations of PlayStation. So you collect all the like stuff from the for the first PlayStation, the PS1, the PS2, the PS3, PS4, and all these different accessories. And you have this room that they get all collected in, and I don't know, it's kind of cool. Like, and it's nice to have a console that actually comes with a free game. Like, I don't think that's really been a thing for a while. No, it's kind of cool. The PS5 is amazing. I mean, again, like the fact that I've been playing the Xbox more is not like my way of saying, oh, I think it's better. Though I think the Xbox is great too. I'm a fan so far. And so far I've been using the Xbox as kind of the streaming service device since I think right now it has Apple TV, or sorry, YouTube TV, but I don't think the PS5 does, right?
Right. I think they let go of it. I think maybe they had it at one point in time and then they kind of let go of it, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think that's really the only service that I use that, the PS5, one of the two devices doesn't have. So I'm like, okay, well then I'll use the Xbox for everything streaming wise. So, but yeah, I've been playing Gears 5 a lot on the Xbox, and no, it's fun. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that the past couple weeks, so that's definitely had a lot of my attention. So.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are jealous, David, because not only did you get one next gen gaming system, you got two, and it's not like
You got both of them.
it's not like David's a social media influencer and he just got hooked up with them or anything. He just got it through the old college try of
lucky,
just
and
trying to.
I feel weird almost, and I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't have both of these. Like this, like this isn't
You're
right.
doing something wrong. Like, this is wrong.
Like, okay,
Can't possibly be this
Michelle
quiet,
was, I forget exactly how it was worded. She was showing me some meme that was kind of something. It was something along the lines of like parents being like, those adults out there who got a PS5 should feel bad that there's going to be a kid somewhere who's not going to be able to open one on Christmas morning. And it's like a typical kind of meme reaction of like, I don't give a fuck about your kids or something. I don't know. But
you just look at them as like, yeah, I don't care. I just don't.
David's over here. Well, I got to use one I can sell you for 1,000.
I got a PS4 here.
David's over at his house and he's turning things on, and all you hear is PlayStation, and it's just like, yeah. Pardon me, I'm going to go play Miles Morales Spider-Man. I don't know. Sorry,
right. By the way, you say that, and I just recently picked up a PS4 myself, and a couple of people I told I got one, they said, well, why didn't you just pick up a PS5? And I was like, well, sort of like David, I hadn't owned a PlayStation, really. I think I had maybe got the first PlayStation way after, at one point, but didn't really play it. And so I picked up this PlayStation 4 because there's a lot of current generation games that have been praised a lot, and I never had got a chance to play them. So I was like, well, I can easily bide my time on a PlayStation 4 until I felt ready to get a PS5. And so one of the games I picked up was Last of Us, which just got a HBO series order as to be turned into a series
Right.
based on the video game. And so I had known that that was sort of coming down the pipeline. They had mentioned it before. Now it was more official, but I kind of wanted to see what all the fuss is about. They're already on the second game, and I'm just now playing the first. So kind of want to get in on the ground level floor and really understand the what's all the hype about with the series and stuff. So I've been playing that, not very far into it, maybe an hour or two's worth of gaming into it, but I have been enjoying it. And I can see really why it would be turned into a series because it does have a cinematic sort of feel to it with the story and the way it looks, and it deals with zombies, so that's always seems to be ripe for material. And the way this was handled, it seems like it definitely leans into it more so. I haven't even gotten to some of the aspects of what makes the series what it is yet. Obviously, being only an hour or two in, but I'm enjoying it so far. And the only other thing was that the PS4 version of Miles Morales Spider-Man, as Yasha just mentioned, came out, and got it today for my son, not on my PlayStation, but for his. And he's got a chance to play a few minutes of it. And this thing, it definitely seems like it needs to be played on a PS5 because it seems like it's working the PS4 overtime. It was so loud, the fans that when they kick in, that it really seems like it was about to take off the tarmac. I mean, it just goes, it's like so loud. We had to turn the volume up so high just to be able to hear it over the fans of the PlayStation 4 that it was just like, man, this thing is taxing this machine right now. So yeah, I guess it is about time that they release some new systems to be able to take advantage of some of these newer games. But I mean, if you played the original Spider-Man game, very similar, other than the fact that you're using Miles' character and his specific set of abilities and his story, and seems pretty cool so far. So they definitely have some good stuff to show on the new PlayStation and even on the current generation of PlayStation 4.
Yeah, with like the Xbox, I haven't bought any games on the Xbox yet because I did Xbox Game Pass, and and it's been nice so far. Especially like when you have two kids who are like unsure of the kind of stuff that they really want to play, and it's so easy to just go, "Hey, we'll download this. Hey, we'll download this." And Gears, and they do have some relatively newer games in there. Like that's how I've been playing Gears 5.
Yeah.
It's a Game Pass title, and it's been great.
Diablo as well, or no, Doom I think is a newer one too.
Oh, is Doom in there?
Was on
See, I didn't even
PC.
realize that.
Yeah, Doom Eternal, the new one. I think that just came out not too long ago.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think one feature I really appreciate about the new Xbox having, that obviously I don't have really experience with doing it, is that I don't know what the limit is on it, but you can have a lot of games that you might be playing and left off at certain points, and it has this quick resume ability that you can just
Jump
hop over
right
from
in.
the last game you were playing and just jump right into where you last left off without like that loading and getting ready to play. So I thought that was a really cool thing that could definitely come in handy, because a lot of times people are playing more than one game at one time, and they just like to be able to have that ability to just jump right back into where you left off.
Yeah, like it's and this feels like such a kind of a first world problems thing to complain about, but like yeah, when I think back to the I was about to say I think back to the PS4 days, but when I would play the PS4, and like there's certain loading times on games that are just ridiculous. Like I mean, I think whenever I'd play Fortnite on the PS4, and the load time of that game was just, oh my God, like it's bad. And now, like with these two new consoles, like just how quick it is to get in the game, it makes you it just makes the decision a little easier when you're like, hey, what do I want to do right now? Hey, maybe I'll jump in and play a game. It's easy to just go, you know what, I'll play around a Fortnite or a little bit of this, a little bit of that real quick. When, as opposed to if you had a console where it's like the load time is so long, it's like, I'm not going to bother unless I know I'm going to sit and play for a while. It's like, I'm not going to bother doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to mostly lately. It's about time to wrap things up. Unless you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up before we go.
No, man. Congratulations on your PS5.
Thanks. You should come over.
I literally did like a soft search to see if it was just anywhere I can buy, and it's like, and there are a couple of websites, but not necessarily the most reputable ones, saying like, oh yeah, you can buy here, and it's like, and I'm like, I'm in no real rush to do this. Like, it's not like I have any, like, I'm not buying for a 10-year-old, kid, or I'm not a big gamer either, so it's like, there's really no reason for me to do it.
Yeah.
I did want to say there was one other thing that I want to try and watch sometime this week. Planned on trying to watch it this weekend, didn't have a chance. There's a new series that came out on Disney Plus called Marvel 616, and it's an anthology documentary series that talks about like some of the characters and where they came from and the creators behind those characters and stuff like that. That seemed pretty interesting, and especially having to delve, it looks like, into some of the newer characters that might have their own Disney Plus shows at some point. It'd be good for other people out there to kind of learn about some of these characters ahead of that, those releases.
Nice.
Yeah, I did see that too. Kind of interested in watching that as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess with that, we're going to wrap things up. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. If you are listening to this episode on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment down below. And you can also reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at Flicker_effect. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
And I'm Yasha Wilson.
Thanks for listening.